Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with a bit of Total War Warhammer 2 tournament gameplay. So, I do apologize, the other day I didn't manage to get a video up, I simply didn't have the time, but I was involved in, recently I've been involved in ShadowOnlineGaming's YouTubers tournament, and which he was kind enough to host and invite me and a bunch of others to take part in. And this has been a very loosely organized tournament. It hasn't been like one day. It's essentially been you organize your matches with the opponents you're assigned to play against, and you get in those matches, you play them, and then depending on how well you do, you may or may not move into the semifinals and the finals and all that sort of stuff. So regardless, it was 5 matches in each group, and in my group I had 5 matches to play. So I'll be casting these in 3 sets. I'm going to do the first 2 that I played, the second 2, and then the final one separately. And these were some really fun matches. I had a great time with this tournament, and in the sort of qualification rounds here, and yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed it as well. For this first match that I did here, it was on the River Velu, playing as the Lizardmen against the force of the Beastmen. And going into this match, I figured, you know, there are more restrictions in tournaments. You can't bring too many monstrous units. You can't have more than 3 monstrous units, and sometimes you can't even have more than 1 of certain ones. You can't have too many redundant abilities. You can't have there's a whole bunch of stuff. Obviously, something like Cold-Blooded is an exception because you just have to have Cold-Blooded. But there are certain abilities you can't have redundancies of, like heals, I think, and direct single target damage, stuff like that. Regardless, for my build here, as the dinos, this is a build I've been running quite consistently lately. I decided to roll with Lord Mazdamundi here in the center on Slock. He's got Ruination of Cities and Banishment, of course, the new Shield of the Old Ones, which grants that great resistance, Arcane Unforging, Apotheosis, Curse of the Midnight Wind, Harmonic Convergence, and Net of Mintok, all very good. And of course he does also have the Sunburst Standard, which grants some good AoE resistances. Alongside him, a Bastillodon with the Rev Crystal, as well as a trio of Star Spears, making up essentially the core of this army, the core that's supposed to hold and tank, while the rest of the army does work. Now for the rest of the army, well, we've got 2 Skink Chiefs up in the air, as well as 2 Pterodon Riders. These guys are mostly there to counteract enemy cavalry, to especially skirmishers such as Centaurs with throwing axes, and also to apply pressure to units such as Minotaurs, which my opponent brought over there. Finally, we do have 2 Horned Ones, and these guys I find are pretty good. If you need to tear through Bestigors, they'll do great against them. They'll do rather well against Minotaurs in a straight-up fight. Even Minotaurs with 3 weapons, these will actually chew through relatively efficiently. And obviously, they'll do kind of dumpster everything else. They've got very high armor, and their melee defense isn't terrible. It's not something to write home about, but it's 30 at this point, so it's not bad. And so yeah, I figured this would be a good map, or a good sort of build to bring here against the Beastmen. For my opponent, he did go with a bit of a Mino bus. So for his Lord, he's got Malgor the Dark Omen, who does have Devolve, Traderkin, Brace Scream, as well as good old Bestial Surge, very potent sort of layout of spells. He does have a Mino bus in the back here, so 2 Minotaurs with 3 weapons, as well as a Gorbel, very potent combo, able to just lay down the law against large targets, which Beastmen are famous for. And in this match, I have quite a few large targets. Fortunately for me, though, these guys are very susceptible to missile pressure. Otherwise, he does have 2 Ungor Spears, flanking Koroks Manrippers, as well as Bestigor Herd. So these guys will be able to outtrade my Spearmen pretty efficiently if I don't land some good nukes. Harpies up in the sky to contest the Flyers, which is why I do have the 2 Pterodons alongside the Skink Chiefs to be able to get rid of these guys quick. 2 units of Gorge out on the flank, and then 2 units of Centaurs with great weapons, or with throwing axes on this flank. I don't know why I always call these guys great weapons. They're definitely not. They have throwing axes. But these guys are a major nuisance. Regardless, as the match kicks off, I'm immediately going to try to pressure these guys away because I want to get rid of these 2. They're very annoying, and they could pose a huge threat to both my Horned Ones, as well as my Lord, and my Bastillodon with the Rev Crystal could just be very badly threatened. So I'm going to reveal my Horned Ones here. I haven't actually seen most of my opponent's build. The Gors, of course, do have stock, I do believe, and actually no, these guys don't have stock. I'm a liar. Ignore me. But I did see those guys at this point, but I haven't seen this main part of this army. And so we are kind of maneuvering over to this flank to try to deal with these guys and harass these Centaurs. I figured my opponent's kind of camping in the woods, or hiding there. Now, you aren't allowed to camp, so he is, of course, going to be harassing me, trying to get some harassment with the Centaurs. But the thing is, Skink Chiefs kill these guys instantly, and with each shot the Skink Chief lands is basically a guaranteed kill on the Centaurs. So my opponent really can't afford to sort of do this extended skirmishing game because he's going to lose pretty badly. Here against GeneralConfusion, he's I was more than aware that this it wasn't going to work out, and so you can see he's going to start making a move pretty shortly. pushing out with his infantry and his cav, or his monsters, having sort of flanked with these gores and set himself up rather effectively. In the meantime, the Sking Chiefs are being sort of forced to retreat by the Harpies, who are pressuring us pretty heavily. But in the meantime, we're going to push out against the Centaurs, and this is going to be a bit of a greedy play. We are going to land a nice little net here, a net of Mintok, and immediately pull out with our Horned Ones, diving straight in, trying to get in on those guys as quickly as we can and shut them down. Unfortunately, here I stopped with Mazdamundi. Huge error, huge misplay on my part. I really should have gotten in here immediately and engaged. Just started doing damage right away. But unfortunately, although the Horned Ones are going to get in there and do immense amounts of work just chunking these guys down, the net does wear off before the Minotaurs get in there, which really sucks. It means these guys did get their charge off and are going to get some immense damage on my Horned Ones. And yeah, it's a grim situation. My opponent is going to get a beautiful devolve here, which isn't really showing, but it is. There's a devolve down, melting my poor Horned Ones. And so we are taking some huge damage. In the meantime, though, we are going to be able to net down this area. We're going to be able to sort of route or cut them off with the Saur Spears, prevent them from pushing through, and then drop a banishment that doesn't do very much. It kind of misses the main blob that I need to hit. I really need to hit the Korok's Bannerpers, and it kind of didn't connect. It kind of just wandered right off them and didn't really do what it needed. But in the meantime, you know, it's been an okay trade. We've forced off a lot of these throwing axes. We've killed a few Minotaurs, lost a few Horned Ones, but we can hit them with Rev Crystals and heal stuff up. And we have forced off the Harpies, which is a really nice little win. But my opponent is winning the infantry game decisively, and you can see things definitely going a bit sour. He is pushing out with his monsters here, coming in against Mazdamundi, who's really not able to escape. So as we are repositioning here with our Horned Ones, we're going to be looking to get a new engagement over there. In the meantime, a Ruination of Cities does basically nothing, scrapes these who are hurt a little bit, but really getting very little done, unfortunately. In the meantime, our Saur Spears are getting wrapped up rather quickly. They are starting to rout, and although we are doing our very best here to surround these Gore Herd and these Minotaurs, my opponent is going to be able to make use of this to hit me with both the throwing axes as well as another devolve pretty shortly. And I'm not entirely sure when he hits me with the devolve, but he will in just a little bit. In the meantime, the Sking Chiefs, while they are definitely getting a lot of kills, they are not getting them fast enough, and these guys still are fairly healthy. I really need to play a more kitey game. Unfortunately, they're not doing enough damage, and now with that beautiful devolve, the Horned Ones are going to be gone. The Minotaurs, although very badly pulverized, are actually going to rout off the Bastillodon, and at this point, it is going to be GG for me, because all I've got really at this point is Mazdamundi against a full HP Gorbel and a horde of infantry. My infantry is basically all routed, the Horned Ones are gone, and that is going to be game, guys. So that was game one. I'm shortly forced to GG out by General Confusion, and that's it. There's not much else to say. Very well played to my opponent. Really, I think good composition, and it really came down to my impatience and my poor play there. That's really why this loss occurred. With the Pterodons and with the Sking Chiefs, I had all the tools in my pocket to essentially play this game on my terms. I could have picked apart the Centaurs and the Harpies, and once those were gone, once those were I was rid of those, I would have been up several thousand gold, probably about 3,000 gold in value of my army, and would have then been able to chip apart the Minotaurs, chip them down with the Sking Chiefs and the Pterodons, and then engage in a very sort of decent fight with my infantry. But the problem is I was impatient. I let it evolve and nuke my Horned Ones twice. It was an overcast devolve and then a normal devolve, which is brutal. That's basically why the Horned Ones got deleted so hard. I got really greedy pushing the Horned Ones out early on, trying to snag those Centaurs, which is a huge misplay. Risky plays like that aren't really worth it, but I should listen to my own advice, and I didn't. Otherwise, I think this build is fine. I just don't think I misplayed. For my opponent, he played well, and he outmaneuvered me. He took advantage of his very wide infantry formation to get around my flanks, used the Harpies to apply pressure, which is why I was saying that I really should have been more patient. Because had I been more patient, I could have gotten rid of these peripheral harass units, and then the fight would have happened with full support of my flyers, with my Horned Ones not being bogged down or distracted by anything, and that sort of stuff. So definitely well played to General Confusion. I do want to hop on over to a second game, which was against ProfessorPwn, and hopefully we'll see some more fun there. So this time around, we are on a Stallion Tomb, playing as the Empire against the Dark Elves, and that was a rule in this tourney. Was you had to, first of all, it was blind picks. So every match here we're going in, you got to choose whatever faction you wanted, but you couldn't choose the same faction twice, and it was pure blind picks. So I suppose I should cover that fact beforehand, but you're going to see different factions basically every time. That was kind of the goal, but going through this one was Empire against Dark Elves on a Stallion Tomb. I figured Stallion Tomb is a pretty good Empire map, at least in my experience, and as you guys know, I like my Empire. I play Empire a lot, and sometimes probably more than I should. But going into this build, I had kind of a build I've had a lot of success with going into this one, and I really wanted to make use of it. For my lord, I'm rolling with Balthazar Gelt, and he's got Final Transmutation, he's got Searing Doom, as well as Plague of Rust, all very good spells coming in against Dark Elves. Also has access to Arcane Conduit, as well as the Staff of Olans. For my infantry line, bit of dirt cheapness. We've got a bunch of Spearmen with Shields, Sigmar's Sons, Flagellants, Swordsmen, Empire Captain. You guys have seen a build very similar to this one. And that's one of the things. A lot of the builds I run in Quick Match are actually builds that are tournament legal, whether intentionally or not. The fact that I don't like doing gimmicky strats that are very one-dimensional usually means they're probably tournament legal. But this was the build I decided to run for frontline. With the Empire Captain there to anchor things, hold down the front down a little bit better. 2 Pistoliers in the front, 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun, Demigryph Knights, the Royal Griff Knights here, backed by an Empire Captain on a horse, giving them that hold line. Hold line might seem like a stupid little upgrade, but it is +5 melee defense and +4 leadership, so it does add up. It does have a meaningful impact, in my opinion, on the performance of your units. And then we do have 2 Outriders with grenade launchers, which I think are absolutely godly in this matchup and can do a lot of hurt. Now for Professor Pwn's build, he does have Dark Riders on one end, as well as Dark Riders and the Slaanesh Harvesters on the other, so a very potent light cav force. And then a main line of basically infantry. He does have Malekith up on a dragon, who's got Gaze of Malice, he's got Stand Your Ground, he does have Soul Stealer, Chillwind, Power of Darkness, and of course Breath and Destroyer and Spiteful Conjuration. A unit of Harpies over here to back him up, Dread Spears all around defending his infantry pocket, which includes Sisters of the Singing Doom and 2 Hargoneth Executioners, one of which is the Blades of the Blood Queen. So a very rush heavy, very infantry heavy composition, and he's immediately going to push me. And it makes sense. He doesn't have much of a choice here, neither do, to be honest, neither do I. We do kind of have a pretty blunt force build, though. Mine does involve the Kitey Cav and a bit of a hit and run with Knights of the Blazing Sun. So pushing in, Professor Pwn, you can see immediately pushing forward. He's got his Sisters of the Singing Doom, unfortunately outpacing his infantry, which is good for me, because this means I'm going to be able to get some cheeky shots here, some cheeky early damage. These guys are very squishy. They've got no armor, basically. They've got a little bit of physical resist, but not really a adequate defense. And you can see as they're pushing forward, they're taking immense damage right away, and that's Searing Doom just monster mashing them. These guys have lost, like, a third of their HP before they even come close to lines meeting. And the Pistoliers just fall back. They don't have to do very much. They just have to get a volley off, do a little bit of hurt, and get the heck out of dodge. In the meantime, Balthazar is going to pull back. I really need to keep him safe from Malekith, of course, and the Harpies. If he gets gooned out, this is going to be a disaster. If not, though, he can just do a lot of hurt. And, of course, there's no way my opponent can actually catch Balthazar. He's too fast. So if I don't let him, he's not going to get caught. In the meantime, though, Knights of the Blazing Sun posturing for a charge, but unfortunately I kind of missed these guys, these Dark Riders sneaking around. I did actually see this unit over here and got the jump on them. These Knights of the Blazing Sun are turning these Dark Riders into Dark Mulch, and they are getting completely shredded. My light cav force pulling back, and now my infantry pushing forward as the grenade launchers unload on the spears. And this is really one of those brutal things, or brutal realities for Dark Elves. If you try to push in like this, it doesn't matter that you have shields. Outriders are going to turn you into pulp, and that is what's happening right now. The Flagellant's going to dumpster those Dread Spears. Swordmen are going to do really well. Unfortunately, though, huge misplan on my part here. I'm going to commit the Sigmar's Sons when I should have turned them around to help defend against Dark Riders. My opponent is getting into my backline, into the cookie jar, and doing some work. Over here, a Soul Stealer going down to the Pistoliers, who are shooting away at Malekith, even as I do hit him with a Plague of Rust. But we did get rid of those Dark Riders, so that is a little bit of a win. We're getting a bit of a pincer, but a huge misplay on my part here, guys. Balthazar gets caught by Harpies, and he cannot fight in melee. So he's going to start getting dumpstered. My Outriders over here do get destroyed by the Light Cav before the Empire Captain can save them. That we are going to be able to snare them a little bit. And you can see these guys trying to escape are going to get caught and dumpstered. Word of pain on the Royal of Griffites, but not on the Knights of the Blazing Sun, who are in the pits here and going to tear these guys a new one. Unfortunately, though, Balthazar here getting destroyed in melee. Not able to squeak his way out of there, and just getting taken to Pound Town in an absolute disaster for me. We've lost our magic, and things are looking grim. In the meantime, the Sisters of the Singing Doom are going to pincer and collapse on my swordsmen. They are going to start sort of rolling up this front line, but with the Sigmar's Sons and Flagellants, it's not going to be a huge tragedy. And the Slaanesh Harvesters, as well as the Dark Riders, have essentially been kicked away. You can see these poor guys just getting mulched and ground under by Empire Cav, just not where they want to be in life. And I'm still, despite the fact that Balthazar is gone and I'm not going to be able to get him back despite my best efforts with the Pistoliers, it's not the end of the world. It looks bad, that is for sure. But I still do have some very powerful cav force. I still do have respectable missile pressure. And we are going to be able to start peppering these Sisters of the Singing Doom down. You can see we're kind of kiting away, running away, and whittling them slowly but surely down into the dust. Unfortunately, though, my opponent still has a very healthy Blades of the Blood Queen. He still does have a very healthy unit of Hargoneth Executioners over there. And he does still have Malekith, who of course can heal ridiculous amounts because Soul Stealers fair and balanced. But regardless, we're going to dive in here against the Sisters of the Singing Doom. Do quite a bit of hurt. You can see they're losing HP at a prodigious rate, though of course they don't rout because they've got fear, terror, and ludicrous leadership, because that is how Dark Elves be. Elsewhere, Balthazar still running laps around the map, routing, and you can see the Outriders unloading on the Dread Spears and the Hargoneth Executioners, doing some immense work. Outriders with grenade launchers, of course, an absolute powerhouse unit, in my opinion, and honestly, in just objective performance, they're very strong. In the meantime, the cavalry here is going to dive in on the flank, doing some major work, and we are slowly but surely just chipping these guys down. Although my opponent is obviously diving in with Malekith, trying to get some good value that way. Malekith can't afford to stay in a fight with the Royal of Griffites, who can, of course, kind of pulverize him. He does have good stats, but so do they. And they're going to get in there. You can see the Empire Captain coming in on the horse, gallant steed there, just diving in and smacking Malekith on the head. But it's not going to do that much. And the Pistoliers are definitely working him down as well, but he is pretty tanky. He does have stand your ground. The Griffites are struggling a little bit. And my opponent does get a Soul Stealer. And I do believe Soul Stealer heals for the same ridiculous amount, no matter how no matter how few units you hit with it. So Malekith here is just healing a ridiculous amount. And he managed to sort of tank through the calf pressure. And the Relative Griffites, despite their best efforts, are just not able to bring him down, which really sucks for me. In the meantime, though, the grenade launchers mulching the infantry, really doing a number on them, really tearing apart these Hargoneth Executioners. And here in the pits, my opponent has essentially lost most of his infantry. So certainly while the battle looks grim, ProfessorPwn has lost most of his troops. He's basically down to Malekith, some Hargoneth Executioners, and the Blades of the Blood Queen, which is a powerful force. But at the same time, it is something that potentially can still be dealt with. And I still do have an Empire Captain around kicking. We do still have some Pistoliers. And we do even still have the Royal of Griffites, a nice Blazing Sun here, who are going to be able to extricate themselves and deliver a brutal charge onto these Dread Spears, who do not stand a chance and are just going to get pulverized and punted and completely routed and shattered. So things are definitely not over, and they're still Outriders with grenade launchers, of course, because why the heck not? These Pistoliers are out of ammo, so who cares? But, of course, Malekith, being an absolute pain in the posterior, is doing quite a number on my troops. And you can see he's whittling down his pocket here, getting rid of the captain and the spears, and doing just a lot of menacing stuff as I try to mop up these troops on the flanks. I have lost one unit of grenade launchers, which is really hurting me right now. Had those guys still been around kicking, they could be delivering some brutal work to all this annoying heavy infantry. But we do force the Harpies off. We are pulverizing these Dread Spears, actually delivering a little bit of a charge there before they can set up, before peeling away last second. And we're going to get a little bit of a charge here on the Hargoneth Executioners, trying to get rid of them. And they, as the Flagellants and the Empire Captain here hold their own, trying to just bog Malekith down and buy me a little bit of time. So things certainly not looking good for me, but at the same time not looking disastrous. We still have a little bit of potential to come back. We have this Empire Captain here. We've got some cavalry. Balance of power, I think, is a little more unfair than it should be. It's very against me, but we still, like, Malekith's very badly mauled, and we do still have quite a bit of firepower available to us to potentially whittle down those Blades of the Blood Queen. Unfortunately, I probably should have turned off the auto fire here, so that was a big mistake, wasting probably a good volley of ammo there. But we are going to be able to get rid of those Hargoneth Executioners, completely shatter them. And at this stage, ProfessorPwn is basically down to some Dread Spears being pursued off the map, the Hargoneth Executioners, and some Harpies. So it's a very, at this point, disparate picture for both sides, I think. Me with this haggard force of cavalry, ProfessorPwn with Malekith and the Blood Queen, and then there's a few peripheral troops who kind of were doing mop-up duty. Including, I think, well, we've got the Outriders with the grenade launchers. We've got some ammo-less Pistoliers. You can see we actually do some damage there on the Blades of Blood Queen. The Outriders definitely not pushovers over here. In the meantime, the Harpies trying to get a little cheeky, being hit by Power of Darkness, and Malekith tries to regen some Winds of Magic. We're going to get a bit of a charge there with Knights of the Blazing Sun, completely mulching them. As my opponent does start closing here with the Blades of the Blood Queen, we are going to be able to sort of pull away. Not really. We are going to get caught by Malekith. I was trying to get in on these Dark Riders who do get tear out by the Griffites, but unfortunately Malekith does get in here. He's going to kill off the captain, which really sucks. The Demigryph Knights are in there, and they're going to do give quite a good account of themselves. But with the Hargoneth Executioners in the pits as well, doing very consistent damage. The Outriders too low on ammo to really swing the tide at this point. Malekith is going to be able to see this game through to a victory for the Dark Elves, and a bit of a heartbreaker here, because it was a match where I kind of threw it. You can see these are Pistoliers, so they don't really matter. They're not really relevant. And at this point, it's simply going to be a complete rout for the forces of the Empire. And there's not much we can do. There's some of these Knights of Blazing Sun still diving in for Sigmar, but at this point, or for Myrmidia, I guess, in their case. But that was game 2 against ProfessorPwn. And honestly, a game that completely was lost because I lost Balthazar. Well played, ProfessorPwn. I think to be honest, I don't necessarily think the build was that great against what I brought here. I think I essentially managed to lose the game rather than, which, you know, if your opponent's making a mistake, don't interrupt him. ProfessorPwn was able to greatly exploit the fact that Balthazar Gelt was not properly microed. I didn't run away from the Harpies, so he got snared him with the Harpies. I didn't micro him away from the Harpies in time. He was like 30 points faster than the Harpies. He should have been easily able to escape them, but I just lost track of him. And the fact that I didn't have magic in the long run meant that a crippled Malekith was still around kicking. And had I had, for example, Final Transmutation, which could have easily had the wins of magic for a overcast Final Transmutation, that could have been the end of Malekith's hopes and dreams there, and that could have easily swung the tide here. A single cast of that. And unfortunately, I simply did not have that, and so I think that essentially decided the game there. A few other small micro mistakes, like letting one of my units of grenade launchers get dumpstered by the rear charge from the light cab, but honestly, I don't think that just wasn't the game changer. The game changer was the fact that Balthazar Gelt died or got routed off the map way prematurely. And so while ProfessorPwn still got multiple Soul Stealers off, and he got a huge value out of Malekith, just being on a dragon and being a pain in the rear, terror routing my troops, Balthazar Gelt, well, he wasn't there, so it sucks. It happens. But these were the first 2 games of the tournament, and there were 3 others. Like I said, I'll be casting those a bit later. These first 2 definitely a bit rough. I think the Lizardmen, both games were essentially lost by, and I feel like that's often the case, but they were essentially lost by bad plays on my part. Or small oversights on my part. So missing Balthazar Gelt in the second one, getting overly greedy in the first one, and so it's important to sort of notice mistakes that were made. And of course, my opponents made mistakes as well. I think ProfessorPwn trying to engage my heavy cav with his light cav, trying to bog them down, for example, was not necessarily the best idea. But I think these singular misplays were often sort of the deciding factor in the entire game. And really, had I kept Balthazar, especially in the second one, it came right down to the wire. Had I had Balthazar around kicking at the end with some magic, or even with some to be able to chase units off, would have been such a potent force. But it is what it is. Regardless, very well played to my opponents, GeneralConfusion as well as ProfessorPwn. Had a lot of fun. And I'll be sure to upload the remaining replays in the upcoming 2 days. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, as usual, do not hesitate to post them. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.